Hey guys, tonight we journey into the warm dawn of a Yoruba village where you trudge through dew-slicked pathways toward a humble plaza. The air shimmers with anticipation as a lone drummer perched atop a wooden stool raises his carved drumsticks. You probably won't survive this without your morning coffee, but instead of caffeine, you're about to get a pulse from ancient traditions. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Feel free to post your location and local time in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step in sync with your heartbeat as the first beat sounds a crisp tock, tock, tock that slices through the pre-dawn hush like a bird's cry. This is no random patter. You're experiencing the Yoruba Ibomiro ritual, wherein a master drummer signals the break of day. Historians still argue whether this practice originated in the Oyo Empire or further west among the Dahomey, but by the 16th century it was already codified in local chronicles. The drum, used often made from the sturdy trunk of an iroko tree, measures roughly 2 feet high and is carved in a slender hourglass shape to amplify tonal variety. You catch a whiff of smoke from nearby cooking fires as villagers yawn and stretch. The drum's voice, deep at the center and high at the edges, seems almost human. It reminds you of that one friend who can't decide between singing opera or yodeling. A fringed tale whispers that some drummers experimented with crocodile dung-infused hides to alter timbre, though there's scant archaeological proof beyond a few questionable leather scraps. Nevertheless, the rumor persists in hushed conversations over late-night palm wine. As the dawn drumbeat rolls across thatched rooftops, you notice a scholar in the corner, notebook in hand, scribbling furiously. He's part of a modern team, mapping the precise intervals used in each time beat, trying to decode whether these patterns functioned like our 24-hour clock or more like a fluid sun-shadow system. Historians still argue whether talking drums truly conveyed strict hours or simply signaled broad periods like morning, noon, and afternoon. Your ears strain to distinguish the 2 high calls, flanked by a trio of low rumbles. Does that mean sunrise proper, or just that you've overslept by half an hour? The uncertainty adds to your groggy excitement. You pad barefoot across cool stone slabs leading to the central gathering ground. A group of sleepy children gathers. Some clutch wooden clappers, hoping for an impromptu lesson. The master drummer, known locally as Oso Osi, nods to his apprentices. One young teen steps forward, skin glistening with practice sweat. You watch as he attempts to mimic the morning cadence, thud whump, but his timing lags by a heartbeat. You can almost hear the beating of his youthful ambition behind each strike. You might laugh, but pause. This apprentice could one day relay secret messages between distant towns, akin to a natural telegraph. Mainstream sources tell us couriers on foot could cover only 20 miles a day, but drum signals would leap across forests in seconds. That efficiency, a slick forest Wi-Fi, if you will, kept communities synchronized long before digital clocks. A light joke surfaces. If only your smartphone were that reliable, you wouldn't miss half your morning alarms. Stirring pots of yam porridge send fragrant steam curling skyward. The morning drumbeat doubles as a communal alarm clock. It cues mothers to check if their firewood is salvaged from last night's embers and alerts farmers to fetch tools before the sun softens the earth too much. The sound rolls over banana groves and cocoa trees, awakening creatures, large and small. You notice a flock of pigeons lift off in response, as though even wildlife heeds the Yoruba timekeeper. You draw closer to the drummer. His bare feet grip a patch of compacted earth, giving him stability to coax complex tones from taut leather. He switches to a lower whisper of taps, sliding the rhythm into a softer, rolling pattern. It's a subtle shift that you realize doesn't signal sunrise at all, but rather the market will open in 10 minutes. You tilt your head, yet another layer of precision in a system most outsiders would dismiss as mere spectacle. By now, the entire village is stirring. Goats bleat in pens, hens crow at their own dawn rituals, and traders hoist heavy baskets of yams onto their heads. You spot an elder shaking his cane with a grin. He's timed the drumbeats for more than 6 decades and still jokes that his body clock beats the drum's metronome. A fringe notion murmurs that some elders could predict eclipses by subtle variations in drum patterns, though that claim has never passed rigorous peer review. Why not? Maybe because the idea seems too poetic to falsify. You walk away, the dawn drumbeat fading into a gentle roll across distant palms. As you drift with half-shut eyes, you sense that this isn't just performance art. It's an ancient living clockwork, one that unites a people in ritual precision without a single gear or pendulum. You probably won't wake up on time tomorrow, but tonight you've learned how the Yoruba let leather and hardwood shape the day itself. You slip through the bustle of the market square, the air thick with the scent of smoked fish and crushed peppers, as the master drummer unleashes a brisk staccato sequence of bim-pum-bim snapping traders mid-haggling. This is the renowned Supa signal, historically documented as a standardized market time marker in major Yoruba cities like Ile-Ife by the 18th century. Historians still argue whether this drumming protocol predated the formal 4-day Jah market cycle or emerged as a later innovation to enforce punctuality. You probably won't find this on any global stock exchange floor, but here, every beat matters. You notice a vendor's eyes darting to the sky, as if measuring minutes by bird flight, while another sweeps a fistful of cowrie shells back into her basket with a whoop soups, reminding you that currency may change, but human impatience never does. These shell-based coins, of course, formed a mainstream monetary system across West Africa until European trade introduced copper tokens in the 19th century. Bargainers freeze mid-gesture, A yawn here, a blink there, as if the drums reach into their souls and whisper, "No more mucking about." A fringe tale drifts past you, that in one coastal town a rogue drummer once fooled rivals by mimicking the supa code to extend his friend's bargaining time by 10 extra minutes. The impostor's ruse allegedly fetched an extra goat and several gourds of palm wine before the deception was uncovered. Whether or not that story is true, it earns a hearty chuckle in local lore. Your footsteps echo against wooden stalls as you approach a row of spice merchants. They stand at perfect attention, their voices hushed like an orchestra taking a collective breath. One elder merchant, with a white beard that drags across a woven mat, taps his foot in a tiny semaphore, tiny enough only you notice, counting 4 beats before he ushers his last customer away. You sense in that moment the drum's authority is absolute. Here, time is as negotiable as pepper pods until the supa assertion slices through it. Nearby, a group of women stirs palm oil in bright brass pots. Their rhythmic ladle swishes unconsciously, sinking to the drummer's cadence. You can almost hear 3 ASMR whispers of metal against metal. A playful thought flits through your mind. If only your office coffee machine drummed like this, you might get to your reports on time. A scholarly scribe perched on a low stool under a calabash canopy jots down the precise interval between the final high-pitched clap and the concluding low rumble. He's part of a colonial-era anthropological expedition, one that surreptitiously recorded drum patterns on wax cylinders in the late 1800s. Historians still argue whether these early recordings accurately captured the drum's tonal subtleties or were degraded by rudimentary equipment. As you watch the sun glint off his quill, you wonder if his notes will ever see the light of modern peer review or simply gather dust in a London archive. Meanwhile, traders begin methodically stacking unsold cassava bread into neatly woven baskets, signaling the official close of trade. A fringe claim suggests that some shrewd vendors intentionally mispronounce drum time cues to confuse competitors, much like corporate insiders leaking false earnings forecasts. Of course, no documented evidence supports this rumor beyond whispered confessions at twilight gatherings, yet the idea tickles your fascination. You wander toward a fabric stall where bright indigo cloth glimmers under midday sun. The weaver, a lean man with deft fingers, pauses his pitch and folds a bolt of cloth so precisely it could rival origami. You note that indigo dyeing was a highly prized technique, with cloth from Yoruba looms exported as far as Timbuktu by the 17th century. A mainstream fact woven into every thread of local identity. Nearby, a child selling roasted plantain clutches a miniature talking drum of his own, banging out a playful variation on the supa code. He giggles with glee, certain that he's hacked the system. You can't help but grin. This is drum language in training and echo, of apprenticeship traditions that date back centuries. As the official market-closing drumbeat fades, you observe a debate simmering among a trio of mercantile partners. Should they adjourn to the king's granary to tally profits, or retire to the riverside shade for palm wine? Their body language shifts with the final drum flourish, reminding you that communal timekeeping also fosters collective decision-making. Some historians still argue whether the talking drum served more as a political instrument than merely a timekeeper. The answer, it seems, depends on whom you ask and how loudly they remember the drum's echo. A burst of laughter from a nearby peanut vendor catches your ear. He quips that he'd accept any beating, literal or metaphorical, to avoid the belly-aching antics of haggling. You chuckle softly, thinking that negotiating a price without the drum's intervention often felt like goose chasing in a rainstorm. Sensory detail envelopes you, the soft click of shell necklaces being clasped, the hushed rustle of woven bags, closing the faint hum of cicadas hidden in banana leaves. Each sound layers upon the drum's assertion, creating a multi-sensory tapestry of market closure. You edge toward an exit pathway as the last traders fold their stalls, moving in unison like actors exiting stage left. Mothers scoop up children still clutching chalky cola nuts, and merchants sling cloth over shoulders in perfect synchronicity. It's choreography dictated by sound, not sight, an elegant ballet where time itself cues every pirouette. A light joke forms on your lips. This might be the world's oldest form of scheduled logistics, far more reliable than your half-charged smartwatch reminders. And yet, there's something profoundly human here. A community bound by leather-skinned drums, not silicon circuits. The market square empties, leaving only drifting wisps of wood smoke and the gentle echo of fading beats. You sense the pulse of an age-old system, one that taught countless generations the discipline of time without the need for ink-stained ledgers. As you drift away, the near inaudible hum of conversation swaps to a low murmur, residual market chatter settling into memory. You carry with you an appreciation for a timekeeping technology so tactile, so immediate that it turned deadlines into living, breathing moments. Your mind, now lulled by the drum's receding cadence, dips toward introspection. Perhaps our modern clocks tick too mechanically, lacking the warm imperfection of a human hand on hide. You probably won't bargain for cassava tomorrow, but tonight you've tasted a lesson in rhythm and routine that no digital beep could ever replicate. You slip behind palace gates as the sun reaches its zenith, guided by a soft, dumb-tap-dumb echo that threads through marble columns and carved wooden doors. Palace messengers, lean figures, draped in indigo cloth, gather around a polished talking drum laid atop a low stool. These drums, called gangan, once signaled royal decrees to subjects across distances up to 5 miles, using tonal language that mimicked Yoruba speech. Historians still argue whether Gangan messaging preceded the introduction of court scribes in Ife or emerged as a later innovation to streamline communication. You probably won't survive a day in these regal chambers. Yet here you are, heart galloping like a startled guinea fowl, as a herald places his fingers gently on the drum's narrow waist. He begins a sequence of 2 high notes, 3 quick slaps, then a drawn-out bass thump. The other messengers listen with rapt attention, translating the beat into the king's scheduled audience with chiefs, midday council meeting, ancestral homage, and finally, his repose. Mainstream records note that Oyo Empire kings allocated rigid time slots for such affairs as early as the 17th century, ensuring governance ran smoother than palm oil through a strainer. You notice a young scribe perched on a teak stool quill poised above parchment. He jots down each tonal inflection, drawing squiggly symbols that look more like musical notation than any written script you've seen. A fringe rumor insists that some astrologers could predict a solar eclipse by detecting subtle irregularities in the drum's wood grain resonance, a claim lacking archaeological corroboration but delightful to imagine. You can almost hear the apocryphal whisper, "Don't plan a picnic, the drums foretell the sky's tantrum." As the herald's fingertips dance across taut animal hide, you feel the cadence ripple through your chest like a gentle massage. A light joke nudges your lips. If only your group chat notifications were that soothing, you'd tolerate morning gossip better. Yet here, each drum message carries the weight of authority. Ignoring it meant risking the king's displeasure, which, according to mainstream chroniclers, could lead to a week of compulsory mat weaving in exile. Messengers split into pairs, dispatching the decoded schedule via foot and horn across sprawling palace grounds. You trail a pair clad in yellow sashes, colors reserved for royal envoys, as they jog past the stilted kitchens where steamy pots of egusi soup bubble in brass cauldrons. A cook peers over a stone ledge, eyebrows raised in mock horror, wondering if the king's lunch will arrive before his patience boils over. You smile. Even kitchens run on drumbeat deadlines. Nearby, a palace guard yawns, leaning on a spear carved with intricate Adir patterns. He jokes that slipping a tiny drumstick into a messenger's satchel might earn him extra leisure. Yet no one dares test that fringe scheme. After all, messing with royal time was as risky as wrestling a crocodile in the Niger Delta. You weave through courtiers, awaiting briefing. Women in bright wrappers fan themselves trading whispered gossip about which chief arrived late last week, causing the king to postpone a festival by an hour. An older matron grumbles that her hairpin buttressed by leopard tooth beads proved insufficient justification for tardiness. You recall the market's supa timing mattered everywhere, but here, lateness carried more than financial penalties. It carried royal scolding. As the midday drum signal concludes, a hush falls. The king's council convenes in a shaded courtyard where sun dapples through palm fronds. You sense a debate brewing among elders, Should they allocate more tribute from vassal states this season, or invest in fortifying southern defenses? Historians still argue whether these talking drum transmissions influenced policy more than oral petitioners. You lean forward, the warm breeze caressing your skin, wondering if the drums might lie as easily as any shrewd courtier. The gangan player glances at you and smirks. Do you look like potential gossip? He taps two quick highs, followed by a teasing rib-tickler rhythm that to the uninitiated sounds like bim, 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 but to insiders means beware over-enthusiastic visitors. You suppress a laugh. It's the palace's version of a visitor filter. A light joke from a neighboring messenger drifts to your ear. If only palace drumming came with subtitles, we'd avoid half-hour scheduling snafus. Yet, amid the jest, you marvel at how seamlessly sound translates to action. In contrast, your email alerts always leave you scrambling, cursing your browser's mute button. You drift toward a carved ebony door leading to the ancestral shrine. There, muted drum pulses blend with quiet chants as priest-drummers perform eco-rituals, aligning the king's spirit with his daily itinerary. Mainstream sources record that these rituals date back to Oduduwa himself, though scholars still argue whether the original practice honored the founder or simply borrowed his name for clerical prestige. Footsteps echo the king's sandals, squeak on polished stone as he approaches the courtyard. Messengers freeze, posture, straightening eyes, flicking to the herald for any last-minute changes. A fringed tale insists one audacious drummer once altered the midday signal to hasten the king's nap, an act so cheeky that the culprit was forced to play a drum solo for 7 days straight, non-stop. You stifle laughter at the image. A breeze carries the subtle aroma of cola nuts and incense sensory details, layering upon the drum's authority. You imagine the flavor of crushed cola on your tongue, bitter, yet invigorating, much like the palace's blend of power and pageantry. Suddenly the herald strikes a final sotto voce thump-thump, signaling the king's departure to private chambers. Courtiers bow. Messengers pivot to relay updates. The palace's living clock resets, awaiting evening rhythms. You step back into a sunlit corridor, your mind spinning with reflections, leather and wood, as instruments of governance, tonal patterns, as bureaucratic memos. A last light joke flits by. If budgets ran on drum signals, you'd never miss a payment deadline. Or at least you'd have a more melodious reminder. You chuckle softly, drifting toward the splendid portal that leads to the broader city, your pulse still echoing the royal drumbeat. You press into the dense canopy of a forested corridor at dawn's gray edge, guided by the urgent dap, dap, dap dun of war drums resonating through humid undergrowth. The rhythmic volley cuts through cicada chorus and rustling leaves, its tone faster and more insistent than any market or court signal you've heard. You sense raw tension in each beat. This is the Oranbi call, once used to transmit battlefield commands across villages up to 10 miles apart. Mainstream chronicles record that during the 19th century Ijaye War, Yoruba generals coordinated surprise maneuvers entirely via drum language, outpacing mounted couriers by hours. Historians still argue whether those drum relay networks actually shortened campaigns or simply gave chiefs a morale boost. You probably won't survive 5 minutes in that drum-synchronized phalanx, but you're here heart-pounding in time with a barrage of high-pitched taps that mimic the vowel inflections of orders, attack left flank, or retreat south. Each tonal pattern conveys not only direction, but emotion, an early form of battlefield psychology. A fringe story persists that one embittered drummer, seeking revenge for a slighted cousin, once deliberately miscoded a retreat signal, causing a skirmish to crumble into chaos. His punishment was exile under a sun that smelled of scorched earth. You swallow a gasp as a beetle skitters across your sandal. The drum sequence speeds up, and you realize you're part of a living, sound-driven telegraph system. You recall Section 2's market drums commanding traders. Here, the stakes are infinitely higher. A light joke flutters in your mind. If only your team at work emailed with such clarity, you'd avoid endless meeting mishaps. But these drums leave no inbox full of unanswered messages. Forward scouts break cover thin silhouettes in leaf-patterned cloth, each clutching a miniature kudu skin drum slung at their waist. They mirror the Oranbi cadence, passing it along like a baton in a relay race. You follow their footsteps, damp with dew, as they plunge deeper into the brush. Their eyes flicker with adrenaline. You feel the forest's damp breath on your neck, taste the tang of earth in your mouth. A scholarly debate simmers among your senses. Did Yoruba war drums evolve from ancient hunting signals, or were they an indigenous innovation born solely of military necessity? Anthropologists still argue whether tonal imitations of animal calls preceded human speech in the drum's lineage. You pause to examine one scout's drum. Its hide is a pale tan, expertly stretched over a cylinder of hollowed Iroko wood. Tiny brass bells hang from leather straps, jingling faintly, with each impact adding a shimmering overtone that echoes through the undergrowth. You crouch as the lead scout taps out a rapid code, then drops silent, pressing his ear to the instrument's side. In that instant you sense the drums not only speak, but listen. The forest seems to lean in branches, stilling in respect. A fringe claim whispered by local griots insists that some drummers could hear enemy movements through ground-borne vibrations, sounding preemptive beats to confuse invaders. Whether grounded in fact or fable, the tale underscores the drum's mystique. A sudden gust rattles leaves overhead. The next sequence unfurls a series of ascending taps that command the Army's hunter corps to circle eastward, flanking an enemy camp. You watch as the scouts melt into shadows, vanishing among twisted vines. Your pulse thunders in your ears, each beat echoing their partnership of drum and flesh. the ambient forest noise. Frog croaks bird calls. Wind sighs becomes a secondary soundtrack to Oranbi's insistence. You're reminded of Section 1's dawn drums, soothing a sleepy village. Here, the same instrument channels raw adrenaline into coordinated action. You shiver with the contrast. Leather hides that could lull you to sleep also drive warriors into frenzy. As you edge through ferns, you glimpse foot soldiers, assembling behind a moss-covered log. They exchange glances, weapons hoisted, short swords, spears, tipped with iron. A veteran drummer, his arms thick with scar lines, positions his drum atop a flat stone. He nods to the scouts who whisper the relayed code into his ear. Then he unleashes a thunderous boom-tum-bum, so commanding that a startled monkey screeches overhead. You flinch at the volume. Mainstream accounts note that Yoruba war drums could be heard up to 3 miles away, their pitch modulated by squeezing or releasing calfskin tension cords. Scholars still argue whether that dynamic modulation served purely to alter tone or also to encode additional layers of linguistic nuance. You watch the drummer's fingers, dance chords flexing under deft hands, producing both clarity and resonance. You step forward, careful not to break formation. The army advances as one organism footfalls in sync with Oranbi's throbbing heartbeat. The air tastes metallic sweat and the faintest whiff of blood from a recent skirmish. A fringe notion flares that some chiefs paid for drum makers to insert secret hidden furnaces beneath drums, subtly heating the wood to alter resonance, a pre-industrial equalizer of sound. Your rational mind scoffs, yet you can't help marveling at its ingenuity. Suddenly the cadence shifts a brisk flurry, followed by a prolonged bass note that translates to halt. Soldiers freeze mid-stride, fists tightening on spear shafts. You freeze too, feeling the forest's collective inhalation. Then the scout drums a whispered follow-up ambush, imminent. Proceed with caution. You swallow, imagining how such sound-driven strategy might have thwarted rival Yoruba states or repelled Fulani incursions. A light joke surfaces. You wish your morning alarm could tell you traffic's clear, not just screech time to wake up. Yet here, the Oranbi system gives warriors richer context than any buzzer. Nearby, 2 junior drummers practice their own patterns. One mimics a war call, while the other softly drums a lullaby rhythm. Their juxtaposition highlights the drum's dual nature, instrument of both conflict and comfort. You recall Section 20's promise of a gentle lullaby. It's astonishing that the same leather skin spans both ends of human experience. Your boots sink into soft leaf litter as you approach a limestone cliff where enemy forces await. The veteran drummer unleashes 3 rapid beats, GID, 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 signaling the hunters to spring the trap. Instantly, figures in camouflage weave through ferns, encircling the cliff base. In seconds, the ambush is set. You tense, heart alight, as Oranbi's coded voice orchestrates carnage without a whispered word. Then a final bass thump charge. Warriors surge spears, raised voices raised in battle cries that merge with drum reverberations. You avert your gaze, overwhelmed by the intensity of human conflict choreographed by ancient technology. A scholarly debate flickers. Some argue these drums merely accompanied movements, not directed them. Others insist they functioned with military precision, rivaling modern radio nets. Historians still argue whether chiefs trusted drummers more than heralds. The forest rings with clashing metal and the relentless drumbeat. You feel adrenaline, spike adrenaline, you'll regret in dreams. A fringe rumor insists that after such battles, drummers performed purification rites, dousing drums in palm wine and singing healing incantations to cleanse both wood and spirit. The idea resonates with you. Even technology of war needs spiritual repair. As the battle rages, you slip backward, retracing your steps through ferns and vines. The Oranbe's echo fades, leaving only distant war cries. You stumble into a clearing where the air is cool and still. The forest floor is littered with broken branches and fallen leaves, testament to yesterday's frenzied march. You breathe deeply, tasting relief and lingering tension. A final light joke crosses your mind. Surviving a drum-directed ambush makes your last traffic jam complaint seem trivial. Yet, through the haze of conflict, you appreciate the drum's power, leather, and wood wielded not only for ceremony, but for strategy, trust, and community survival. You step out of the forest's edge as twilight's first glow touches the sky, carrying with you the memory of Oranbe's urgent voice. You probably won't re-enlist in any drum-led campaigns, but tonight you've glimpsed how the Yoruba turned rhythm into command, forging an acoustic battlefield long before radios or remote controls existed. As the sun begins to dip beneath the horizon, you enter the twilight of another Yoruba village, where the final notes of the day's drum signals fade into a tranquil silence. But here, instead of the bustling marketplace or the frenzy of battle, the drumming takes on a much softer, almost sacred tone, one that guides the villagers toward dinner and reflection. A deep rumble emanates from a hollowed log, signaling the start of the evening communal feast. You might think that a drum's only job is to command, but in this village it also gathers, people summons food, and sets the tone for rest. Historians still argue whether this transition from war drums to feasting beats evolved over centuries, or whether the peaceful rhythms were always part of Yoruba culture. Some assert that even the intensity of wartime signals helped cultivate unity in the village's nightly gatherings. Whether born out of necessity or ritual, the shift from battle to feast is as smooth as the rhythm of the drum itself. You probably won't survive a night without the rich flavors of jollof rice and fried plantains. But here, as you sit with the villagers, you realize the role these drums play in ensuring that everyone from the eldest elder to the youngest child is included. The community sits in a circle, eyes glistening with anticipation, and every beat is a reminder that in this space, no one is alone. You feel the pulse of the drum, not just in your ears, but in your chest, synchronizing a group, pulling everyone toward a shared experience. The drummer, an elderly woman with lines as deep as the grooves in her drum, strikes the Isu drum, a drum reserved for closing the day's activities. Her hands move with an ease that comes from years of practice, each strike slower and more deliberate, like the evening stretching out before you. The cadence is unmistakable, low and drawn-out tones that merge into a gentle wave. It's almost hypnotic, sending ripples of relaxation through the gathered crowd. A fringe story whispers through the air, once in an attempt to calm a village that had become too restless with the fever of the day. An elder drummer played a drum solo that lasted for an hour, gradually slowing until the entire crowd fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. Whether it was the hypnotic effect of the rhythm or the power of the drum itself, the villagers reported dreams of harmony for weeks afterward. You wonder if perhaps that very drum is still played every night in the same spot, holding memories of past calm in its vibrations. As you listen, you notice the subtle differences in the rhythm of the drum, the shifts in tone as it moves from one pattern to another, as though speaking in a language that only the villagers understand. It's a language that doesn't require words, but communicates everything you need to know about the rhythm of life here. You understand in a way that you can't quite explain that this simple wooden instrument has woven itself into the very fabric of their existence. You're drawn to a group of children, their faces illuminated by the warm light of nearby fires as they mimic the rhythm of the drum with sticks against hollowed gourds. They play with infectious energy, creating a joyful background hum that contrasts beautifully with the steady cadence of the elder's beat. The sound is playful, a reminder that even in a culture so rich with ancient traditions, there is always room for fun and creativity. A light joke drifts to your mind. If only your workplace meetings had such an energetic rhythm to them, perhaps there'd be less yawning. The older villagers who once danced to the same rhythms when they were young now nod their heads in approval, smiling at the children's efforts. As the sun sinks lower, the mood shifts from joyous play to quiet reflection. The drum's pace slows even further, guiding everyone to a moment of introspection. The day's hustle and bustle are put to rest, and the warmth of community swells in the space between each beat. A light joke forms in your mind. If only your own days could be so carefully choreographed, where even moments of rest are as meticulously planned as your work schedule. You can't help but admire how the Yoruba seamlessly blend work, rest, and play into a harmonious rhythm. As the last vestiges of daylight fade, the evening drumbeat gradually subsides, its final echoes lingering like a soft lullaby. The villagers rise from their circle, their limbs heavy with contentment, and begin to disperse into their homes. You follow the echoes of the drum, still dancing in your ears, knowing that, for now, the drum's role is complete. It has gathered, it has guided, and now it fades into the quiet of the night. The stars begin to twinkle in the inky sky above, and the faint hum of nighttime insects fills the air, a natural accompaniment to the stillness that follows the day's rhythms. You pause and take a deep breath, feeling a sense of peace wash over you. This is a moment of stillness, the kind you rarely experience in your own busy life, and you realize that the Yoruba have perfected the art of living in rhythm with time, finding balance between work and rest, activity and reflection, noise and quiet. As you turn to leave, the sound of the drum begins to fade into the night, but the memory of its pulse remains a steady reminder of the role time plays in every moment. The rhythm of life you think is something we all share, whether through the thrum of a village drum or the beat of our own hearts. You follow the day's last traders back toward the central plaza, just as the sun's glowing edge tips beneath the horizon. There's a lull in activity. No more market haggling, no royal decrees to deliver, and certainly no battle orders to heed. Instead, the air fills with a gentle dum-dum-tum that ripples outward like a fading heartbeat. This is the Iroko signal, marking the close of labor and the onset of evening rest. You're enveloped in a rose-gold light as the drum tones soften, inviting you to slow your pace and exhale. Historians still argue whether the Iroko pattern derived from the same tonal structure as the morning Ibomiro call, or if it evolved independently as a companion signal. Mainstream accounts note that by the early 19th century, village elders employed this drumming at sunset to synchronize communal breaks before moonrise. Yet some field researchers believe the Iroko rhythm predates organized timekeeping altogether, woven into pre-Yoruba migratory rites when bands paused at twilight to make camp. You probably won't survive on a schedule this precise without your smartwatch. But here, the drums breathe a collective sigh of relief, each low thump like leather-skinned lungs exhaling. The master drummer sits beside a cluster of termite-ridden logs, repurposed into seats, his silhouette etched against flickering torches. His hands glide over the drum's hide, producing a velvety bass that caresses your ribs. In each beat, you detect a subtle modulation, the faintest flattening of pitch that whispers, "Rest now," rather than "rise up." It's remarkable how a few oscillations of tension chords can shift a community's entire physiology. You recall the Isu drum's closing call in Section 5. This Iroko tone is even softer, more intimate. A light joke pops into your mind. If only your office's end-of-day chime sounded this soothing, you might linger at your desk a few minutes longer just to listen. But here, every villager feels the drum's warmth. Men return from yam fields, Women set aside cooking utensils, and children abandon play to nestle close to glowing fires. The drum's cadence is a masterclass in collective unwinding. A fringed tale drifts through the smoke-hazed air. Once an outsider tried to accelerate the Iroko sequence, eager to begin a festival early. The master drummer countered with a rumor that speeding the rhythm would summon restless spirits. Whether this story stems from genuine spiritual caution or clever social engineering, it's told at every moonlit gathering to reinforce the drum's authority. As you settle on a worn mat, roasted plantain smoke curling past your nose, a group of apprentices crouches nearby, their tiny thumb drummers, tapping hollow gourds in tentative imitation. They struggle with the Iroko's subtle shifts. One moment, a prolonged bass; the next, a fleeting high-pitched tick, as if learning to breathe in rhythm themselves. You smile at their fumbling enthusiasm, remembering the teen in Section 1 who nearly tripped over his timing during dawn drills. Callbacks weave through this tradition like threads in a kente cloth. You lean back, feeling the heat of the evening stones beneath you, and watch elders tilt their heads, in appreciation, eyes half closed, as if assessing a fine wine's bouquet. Their silence speaks volumes. The drum's soft voice demands no translation. A mainstream fact resonates here in numerous West African societies. Evening drumming served neurological functions, synchronizing communal circadian rhythms through sound-induced melatonin release. Historians still argue whether this biological effect was intentionally harnessed or merely a happy byproduct of tradition. Nearby, a child peers at your notebook and mimics your scribbling motion, tapping a pattern that almost matches the master's beat. You chuckle softly as the child's small hands cooperate with a flawless mimicry of Iroko, proof that even the youngest can absorb the drum's language by ear. It's a scene reminiscent of Section 2's market apprentices, whose playful bits of code might one day turn into official signals. The continuity of learning binds every generation. A warm breeze drifts through the plaza, carrying the sweet perfume of wild jasmine and the faint tang of fermented palm wine. The drum's low heartbeat seems to synchronize with the rustle of leaves overhead, as though nature itself joins the ensemble. You take a deep breath, inhaling the blend of sensory details, the smoky aroma, the earthy resonance, the whisper of canvas tents closing for the night. It's a multi-layered ASMR experience that no binaural mic could replicate. You notice a pair of griots storytellers whose voices will soon rise to weave local legends, leaning close to the drum circle. They whisper in hushed tones, sharing quirky anecdotes. One insists that the Iroko drum's wood came from a legendary tree said to grow only at river forks. Though no botanist has verified this claim, it adds mystique to every drum stroke. A scholarly debate hums beneath that tale. Did symbolism birth such legends, or did ancient healers truly attribute healing properties to those unique woods? Beyond the circle, shadowy silhouettes of livestock sink into pens. Even goats pause mid-chew ears, flicking at the drum's soft invitation. You realize the Iroko call signals more than human repose. It extends to all living beings in the village's sphere. Mainstream ethnographers have documented livestock responding to drumming cues as early as the 1700s, herding themselves toward nighttime stalls. Historians still argue whether this behavior was domestication in action or simply conditioned responses over centuries. Your eyelids grow heavy as the Iroko pattern shifts into its final phrase, a drawn-out bass note followed by a fading trill. A fringe claim surfaces. Some villagers believe that the final trill captures the essence of one's personal breath, meaning the drum whispers each listener's name as it fades. It's poetic, if not verifiable, but as you drift toward that threshold between wakefulness and sleep, you don't mind being named by a drum. A gentle laugh bubbles up as you think of your own bedtime ritual, a blinking phone screen, and an app's synthetic lullaby. You'd trade those sterile routines for a drum's warm resonance any day. The master drummer releases the final echo, his hands resting lightly on the drumhead, like a tender farewell. The circle dissolves, voices, hushed mat bundles lifted, and you sense the village exhale as one living organism settling into rest. You rise slowly, feel the cool air on your face, and stretch muscles that have relaxed to the drum's cadence. A callback tickles your mind from dawn's precise Ibomiro calls to market closings, court signals, war dispatches, and communal feasts. Every drum has shaped this community's heartbeat. Now the Iroko softly tucks them all into night's embrace. You probably won't nap in your own bed with such orchestrated care. But as you step toward the path back to your lodging, the Iroko's echo lingers in your chest. It's a reminder that time can be tender, not just tyrannical, a lesson your digital clocks would do well to learn. You emerge from the twilight hush of the village into a moonlit expanse where clusters of sentinels, clad in indigo and ochre, stand guard. Their patrols are guided by a deep, resonant gum gum gum, punctuated by soft tap taps, a nocturnal code known as the Aroko vigil signal. You probably won't survive a single night here without knowing this pattern, yet you feel its comforting regularity as cups of night-cool palm wine are passed among watchmen. Historians still argue whether Aroko originated as a security measure in ancient Ile-Ife or was later adopted from neighboring Edo practices, but by the 18th century it had become indispensable to Yoruba nocturnal safety. You step lightly over jagged stones as the rhythm guides your pace. Each low pulse feels like a heartbeat sinking all life under the crescent moon. The drum's tonal quality, dark mellow, and sustained mimics the Yoruba word for watch itself, forming a linguistic musical loop historians still debate the origins of. As you move You notice a fringe tale whispered among apprentice drummers that Aroko's beat was once so potent it lured curious leopards away from sleeping villages, though no zoologist has validated the claim. Yet, listening to its deep echo, you wouldn't dismiss the possibility. Ahead, a pair of seasoned guards pauses at a crossroads. One kneels, pressing his ear against a small drumstick, resting on the ground, awaiting the next code. Their faces are illuminated by moonlight, filtered through cocoa tree leaves, casting shifting patterns across their uniforms. A light joke flits through your mind. If only your neighborhood watch group had such precise audio instructions. Instead of cryptic text alerts, you'd feel safer at home. Nearby, a young apprentice practices Aroko on a hollowed gourd, his attempts producing sporadic thumps that earn sympathetic smiles from older guards. You recall Section 6's apprentices fumbling the Iroko. Continuity weaves through every teaching circle. These young drummers represent the drum's future, absorbing each tonal nuance in hopes of someday guiding villages entirely by sound. A scholarly scribe perched atop a low wall records the interval between each low gum and accompanying tap, comparing notes with travelers' diaries that date back to the early 1900s. Those colonial-era observers noted how the drum's signal sometimes doubled as entertainment during lengthy watches, but historians still argue whether its primary purpose was security or communal bonding. As you watch the scribe hobble over uneven stones, you wonder if his notes will one day find their way into a polished, peer-reviewed journal, or remain confined to dusty manuscript pages. The drum's echo bounces off nearby termite mounds, conveying the Aroko code across adjacent compounds. You notice lantern-lit smoke rising from distant huts as families lay out mats and settle in for the night. The code not only directs watchmen, but also reassures sleepers that guardians remain vigilant. Mainstream ethnographers have documented that villagers equate the drum's presence with spiritual protection, a belief some missionaries once labeled superstitious sparking debates over whether Aroko's efficacy rests in psychology or sacred force. As you continue, your senses heighten the soft buzz of fireflies, the rustle of palm fronds overhead, the distant lament of an owl. Each sonic detail melds with the drum's pulses, creating an immersive nocturnal soundscape. You pause by a clay pot filled with fresh water for passing guards. Condensation beads sparkle in the lamplight as the next two gum underscore the code for rotate, watch, now. You lift the pot to your lips and take a sip, tasting the cool clarity of night. A playful thought crosses your mind. If your workplace offered water breaks in sync with a seductive drumbeat, you'd never forget hydration again. Yet here, every practical chore rotating shifts, refilling lantern oil, checking perimeter lines is choreographed by Aroko's steady insistence. Suddenly, a faint rustling in the underbrush triggers a rapid double-tap sequence, an alert for potential intrusion. Guards freeze, scanning darkness beyond the lantern's glow. You catch your breath as a lone hare bolts past, stirring giggles among the watchers. A light joke surfaces the greatest threat to village security. Tonight might be quiz the hare, not marauders. Yet that quick code exemplifies the drum's precision. Threats are flagged instantly, even if they're merely forest fauna. You move on, marveling at how Aroko's slow, deliberate pattern contrasts with the frenetic battle drums of Section 4. It's as though the talking drum's personality shifts with context comforter of the restless arbiter of time and protector in equal measure. You tuck that thought away, the next low rumble guiding you back to the village gate. At the entrance, a final gum 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 signals the end of the shift rotation, prompting guards to exchange tired but satisfied nods. You step past them, the drum's echo receding into the depth of night. Moonlight dances on sleeping rooftops, and you feel the Aroko's lingering reassurance in your chest, an auditory promise that in this community no one truly slumbers alone. As the night deepens, you walk toward the communal fire where the village's eldest gather. Their faces glow with the warmth of the flame, their voices low as they share stories of ancestors and the land. The rhythm of the Aroko drums fades into the background, replaced by the soft murmur of their voices. Yet there's another layer of sound here, the faint beat of a drum playing in the distance. It's not the usual pattern. This is the Sala rhythm, a rare and sacred pulse that only the village's spiritual leaders know how to play. The Sala drum is used only during ancestral rites and ceremonies that honor those long past, and its sound carries a depth of solemnity you can almost feel in your bones. Historians still argue whether the Sala drum was originally used exclusively for royal burial rites, or whether it was adopted later as part of the larger Yoruba religious system. Mainstream sources suggest that by the time of the 15th century, Sala drumming had evolved to symbolize both respect for the dead and the cyclical nature of life. You probably won't survive a ceremony like this without becoming overwhelmed by the depth of its gravity. You can already feel the palpable shift in the air, as though the very atmosphere is listening. The elders nod to each other, their expressions a mix of reverence and quiet pride as they prepare for the ceremony. The drumbeat reverberates through the ground, soft at first, like the heartbeat of the earth before it steadily grows. The rhythm is slow, deliberate, and filled with meaning. A light joke comes to mind. If only your meetings had a ceremonial rhythm like this, you'd walk out feeling spiritually aligned rather than spiritually drained. But here, the beat is more than just sound. It's a direct link to the past. It's a connection to ancestors, to lineage, to the very essence of the Yoruba's understanding of time. You realize in this moment that the drum isn't just a tool for marking the hours of the day. It's a guide, a custodian of memory and identity. As you listen to the Sala pulse, you feel its heavy presence fill the space around you, rising and falling in perfect sync with your own heartbeat. The sound fills every corner of the village, and you know it reaches the farthest, most hidden corners of the earth itself. In the low, flickering light of the fire, the elders begin to chant in unison, each word woven into the rhythm of the drum, creating a seamless blend of sound and meaning. A fringe tale drifts through your mind. It's said that the first Sala drum was carved from the trunk of a sacred tree, one believed to have been planted by the gods themselves. Some elders claim that the tree still exists deep in the forest, though no one has ever been able to find it. Whether that's simply folklore or rooted in truth, the reverence with which the Sala is played suggests something divine is present in its rhythm. You feel the hair on the back of your neck stand up as the drumbeat reaches its crescendo, slow but powerful. The chanting intensifies, becoming almost hypnotic. For a brief moment, you're unsure whether the sound is coming from the drums or from inside your own mind. The villagers, too, are drawn into the trance of the ceremony. The firelight dances in their eyes, and you realize that you're witnessing something far more than a ritual. It's a living, breathing connection between past and present. The Sala's power doesn't lie in its speed or complexity. It's the depth of its meaning, the sacred pause between each beat that gives it its weight. As you sit quietly by the fire, you understand that the drumming here is timeless. It transcends time, uniting generations across centuries. You think about your own life, how quickly it passes by in a blur of deadlines and distractions, and wonder what it might be like to have such deep roots in time, to live by rhythms that have echoed across generations. A light joke emerges. If only your calendar had built-in pauses for ancestral reflection, maybe you'd feel more connected to your roots. But here among these elders, you see a different way of living, one that is measured not by clock hours, but by the rhythms of the earth and the ancestors. The Sala drumming guides the people, not just through the passage of time, but through the passage of memory, teaching them to honor the past and carry it forward into the future. The ceremony continues, and you sit back, allowing the sound of the Sala to wash over you. It's a reminder of the power of rhythm, of the deep, ancient connection between time and memory. You close your eyes and let the sound of the drum fill you, knowing that even as the night deepens, the beat of the Sala will continue carrying with it the weight of history, tradition, and the collective spirit of the Yoruba people. The night deepens further, and you feel the air grow cooler as the last embers of the fire crackle and die down. The drumming continues, but now it has shifted into a quieter, more meditative rhythm. It's as if the drums are slowing down, guiding the village into a peaceful slumber. The Sala has reached its final stage, transitioning from a powerful pulse to a delicate, almost whispering beat, like the last breath of an elder speaking wisdom in the quiet hours before dawn. The village is heavy with the feeling that something profound has just occurred. Historians still argue whether these final moments of drumming were originally part of the Saala rhythm, or if they were added later when Yoruba communities began to incorporate more spiritual practices into their drumming rituals. Mainstream academic sources note that while Saala was once a distinct ceremonial rhythm tied exclusively to royal and religious rites, it gradually became part of the collective consciousness, morphing into a collective memory, shared by all. You probably won't survive a night in this village without feeling the weight of the drum's slow pace draw you into its rhythm. It's impossible to sit here and not feel a connection to the past, to the elders who once gathered by the fireside just as you are now. The world around you is still save for the soft pulse of the drum. You feel your body soften your thoughts, slowing in sync with the beats. You realize that this drum is not just telling time. It's marking the passage of life itself, reminding everyone here that the moments we share, like the rhythms we follow, are fleeting. A light joke bubbles in your mind. If only your mind could slow down this easily, no deadlines, no notifications, just a gentle, calming beat to ease you into rest. But here, it's different. The village lives by the rhythms of the earth, where even the slowest moments are meaningful. The drumming guides the people to sleep, its final notes, a lullaby that seeps into the very bones of the land. You watch as the fire burns lower, the shadows lengthening, and the villagers begin to rise one by one to retire to their homes. The rhythm of the drums continues to pulse gently, echoing in the night air, a promise that even in sleep, the drum's presence will never truly fade. The drumming is not just a tool of timekeeping or communication, it is a reflection of the Yoruba people's deep connection to their land, their ancestors, and the very heartbeat of the earth itself. A fringe story whispers in your ear. They say that in times of great hardship, when the village was threatened by war or famine, the sound of the Saala drum would not only guide people, but also protect them. The sound was believed to have a protective quality, warding off evil spirits and bringing peace to the troubled hearts of those who heard it. Whether that's superstition or truth, you can't help but feel the weight of that belief in the soft, persistent rhythm now carrying through the village. As you stand and begin to move toward your own resting place, you can't shake the feeling that you've witnessed something sacred, something that transcends time, a connection that flows through the generations like the steady beat of a drum. You understand in a quiet, almost reverential way that the drumming isn't just a way to mark time, it's a way to preserve memory, to carry the voices of those who have gone before, and to pass them down to those who will follow. You pause at the edge of the village, looking out at the landscape, bathed in moonlight. The trees stand tall, the stars twinkle overhead, and the sound of the Saala drum continues to resonate through the air. You realize that in this village, time is not something that happens to you. It's something you move with, something you listen to. The rhythm of the drum is a constant, and in that rhythm, you find your place in the world. A final light joke drifts through your mind. If only life were as simple as following a drum beat. No distractions, no interruptions, just a steady, peaceful rhythm to guide you. But perhaps that's exactly what the Yoruba have mastered, the art of listening, of moving with time rather than fighting against it. You step forward, feeling the pulse of the drum still reverberating in your chest, and you take a deep breath, knowing that this rhythm will carry with you long after the night has passed. As you lie back, tucked beneath a woven mat, under the expansive, star-filled sky, the drumming continues to fade, its last reverberations whispering through the air like a soft lullaby. The Saala has concluded, but its resonance lingers in your body, syncing with your own slow breath. You reflect on the journey through the night, the rhythmic cadences that have guided you, the community, and the stories that pulse through the air like threads, binding the present to the past. The drum's rhythm is no longer just sound. It's part of the very fabric of existence here, stretching across time and space. Historians still argue whether the introduction of drum rhythms into sleep rituals evolved from an ancient desire for peace, or whether it was influenced by Yoruba cosmology, specifically their belief in a cyclical existence that mirrors the rhythm of day and night. The mainstream belief is that as the village settled into a rhythm of daily life, it became essential to wind down with a sound that marked the close of one chapter and the quieting of another. You probably won't survive without a lingering thought about the way the world could slow down like this. It's a strange sense of calm, one that seems to take its time, asking you to rest in the present moment and embrace the serenity of now. No hustle, no rushing, just the peaceful passage of time, marked by the pulse of the drum. It's a kind of peace that's rare, almost impossible to find in the chaotic pace of modern life. As you stare up at the night sky, constellations wheel slowly overhead, you think about the centuries of drumming that have carried this same sense of peace into the hearts of Yoruba people. Whether it's the early morning calls of Ibomiro, the alerting beats of Aroko, or the sacred rhythms of the Saala, each rhythm tells a story, a tale of survival, of community, and of time. And tonight, you've felt those stories, those rhythms, deep within you. A light joke comes to mind: if only your life had such a steady rhythm, where each beat had a purpose and a place. Maybe the world would be a little less frantic. But then perhaps this is why the Yoruba were so wise in crafting their own systems of time, not to control it, but to flow with it, to understand that the rhythm of life is not meant to be hurried, but to be lived fully at each moment, just as the drumbeat guides the village's pace. The air is cool, the night gentle. You can still hear the soft whir of insects and the rustle of leaves in the wind, but the drum is no longer commanding. It's become a part of the fabric of the earth itself, an eternal pulse that resonates through the ages. The sound now is a fading echo in the distance, a reminder of the beauty of these rhythms. It's a reminder that life doesn't always need to be loud or urgent. Sometimes the most powerful moments come from quiet, from listening, from the pulse of life that's always there, waiting to be heard. The village around you has quieted. Children are tucked into their homes, and the night watchmen take their final patrols, their silhouettes barely visible in the darkness. The elders, their stories now complete rest beside the fading embers of the fire. The night is calm, as if the earth itself has exhaled and settled into a peaceful slumber. A final gentle beat sounds in your chest as the last memory of the Saala drum fades its echo, now a part of you. It's a sound that will remain with you, not as a memory of noise, but as a memory of the peace that comes from being part of something greater, a rhythm that stretches across time and connects all who listen. You close your eyes, and for a moment you feel at one with the earth. The drumbeat is now a soft whisper, cradling you into sleep as gentle as the night itself. As you drift off, you understand that the Yoruba didn't just invent a way of keeping time, they created a way of living, a way of being in rhythm with the world around them. And as the night deepens, you realize you've learned something precious, how to listen, how to rest, and how to move through the world with the beat of life itself. You step into the vibrant swirl of an Egungun festival where the air trembles with anticipation as hidden ancestral spirits emerge in swirling fabrics and painted masks. Drums thunder in a hypnotic cadence, tum-tum-ta-tum, each pattern dictating when dancers should whirl, when masks should pause, and when the crowd must hold its breath. This is the Egungun timekeeping rhythm, a living chronometer that orchestrates every moment of the masquerade. Historians still argue whether these festival drums evolved as a formal timekeeping tool or emerged organically from ritual needs. But by the 17th century, the Yoruba had codified specific drum phrases to signal dance transitions, praise, songs, and ceremonial rests. You probably won't survive the sensory onslaught here yet. Amidst the kaleidoscope of colors and clang of cowbells, you feel an uncanny order. Each drumbeat functions like an unseen conductor's baton, a series of staccato high-pitched tones signaling the masqueraders to launch into elaborate footwork, followed by a low resonant boom calling for silent obeisance. Mainstream accounts record that in Sogbo and Ibadan, festival drummers used up to 5 distinct talking drums simultaneously, each assigned a different timekeeping role, one for procession pacing, another for invoking specific ancestor names, and yet another for controlling audience clapping. You weave through the crowd, your skin prickling as the festival's energy pulsates through your veins. A fringed tail drifts on the humid breeze. Some say the most skilled drummers could recall a masquerader's ancestral lineage, mid-performance, embedding subtle tonal cues that only those with that bloodline would recognize. While no academic study corroborates this claim, the story persists among participants who swear their relatives receive secret blessings when they hear those hidden calls. From this vantage point, you observe dancers clad in layered cloth masks, each layer representing a generation. They pivot in perfect sync feet, carving dust spirals that glint in torchlight. The principal drummer, perched on a raised platform, raises his arms, as though inviting the spirits themselves to guide his hands. He triggers a quartet of drums in rapid succession, dock, 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 prompting the lead dancer to vault skyward in a breathtaking leap, the crowd erupting in rapturous cheers. You feel your pulse match the tempo, as if the drum speaks not just to your ears, but to your heartbeat. A scholarly debate simmers beneath the spectacle. Did the Yoruba borrow these timed performance codes from neighboring Dahomey festivals, or did they develop them independently? Ethnomusicologists still argue whether the Egungun timekeeping system influenced broader Yoruba theatrical traditions or remained an isolated ritual practice. You favor the latter, caught between the drum's authoritative rhythms and the dancer's weightless grace. You sidle closer to the drumming circle, noticing apprentices handing new drum skins to veteran players between numbers. They whisper about the orunki skin, a cowhide harvested under a full moon, said to produce the clearest tonal range for festival rhythms. A fringe notion claims ancestors themselves guided the moon's phases to ensure that perfect hide maturation. Skeptics dismiss this as poetic license, but you can't help marveling at the lore's persistence. As the festival unfolds, you realize that time within Egungun is both rigid and fluid. A precise drum phrase marks when the masqueraders must change masks a moment so tightly choreographed that missing it disqualifies you from reverence. Yet between these cues, dancers improvise, bending the beats with spontaneous flourishes that feel alive, as though the spirits themselves breathe through their movements. It's a dynamic dialogue between structure and freedom. A light joke surfaces in your mind. If your calendar invited you to improvise between meetings, perhaps work would feel more like a celebration. Here, even timekeeping carries an invitation to creativity. You recall Section 3's royal court drums, dictating schedules within palace walls, and Section 6's Iroko soft calls, coaxing villagers to rest. This festival's drumming merges those functions, structuring the ritual while inviting transcendence. Each drum stroke is a promise: adhere, then ascend. Your senses reel as the tempo shifts again, dum-tum-da-tum-dum, signaling a moment of communal worship. All dancers halt mid-spin and bow to 4 cardinal points. The synchronized pause is so complete that you could hear a pin drop, if not for the soft whisper of leaves overhead. You sense the village's collective breath, held waiting for the next revelation. A mainstream fact emerges. Colonial records from the 1800s describe British observers marveling at Egungun's precision, likening the drummer's control to a traffic officer directing chariots. Yet those same accounts often misunderstood the ritual's sacred depths, reducing it to curious tribal spectacle. Historians still argue how much these outsider records can be trusted, given their frequent ethnocentric biases. As silence blankets the crowd, the principal drummer moves to a single massive drum carved from a sacred Iroko trunk. His first strike resonates like a starter's pistol, sharp, singular, commanding attention. Then a rolling crescendo builds tum-dum-tum-dum-dum, each beat layering atop the last, until the festival reaches its climatic correlative ancestral homage. Masqueraders dip their masks, honor the earth, and then explode into movement again, unleashing pent-up energy in a blaze of color and sound. You stagger backward awash in that release heart, pounding both from exertion and awe. You watch with fascination as festival organizers pour libations at strategic moments, guided by drum cues. The mid-festival Isagun beat prompts them to pour palm wine 3 times, once for forebears, once for present guardians, and once for future generations. A fringe claim suggests that the number 3 holds cosmic resonance in Yoruba cosmology, and that drums amplify this symbolism, but rigorous ethnographers debate whether that numerology arose from drum patterns or pre-existing mythos. Your attention drifts to a circle of onlookers, clapping in unison, their hands tracing silent time gestures that mirror the drummer's code. It's as if every observer, dancer, and spirit moves in a grand orchestrated ballet time, shepherded by wooden skins and human intention. A final light joke flickers. If only your morning alarms came with crowd applause, you'd spring out of bed without hesitation. However, you suspect that even a cheering chorus couldn't match the primal power of these festival drums. As the night wanes, the drumming transitions into a closing cadence, tum-tum-tum. Pause, tum, pause, pause, signaling that the masquerade's final act will commence. Masks exchanged for farewell adornments, dancers take one last bow, and the community stands united by that last drum beat. The rhythm stretches, then quiets, leaving only the echo of ancestral voices in the night. You stand amid spent torches and spent spirits, bathed in the afterglow of communal timekeeping at its most vibrant. The Egungun festival drums have not only measured the hours, but shaped the very fabric of celebration, weaving time's spirit and community into a seamless tapestry. You leave with your limbs humming, your heart still sinking to the retreating rhythm, and a profound respect for how the Yoruba turned drumming into both a clock and a dance. You step out from the pulse of the festival, the last echoes of the drumming slowly dissolving into the cool night air. The village has settled into a deep, resonant silence, a quiet punctuated only by the soft rustling of wind through the trees, and the occasional whisper of the distant river. The timekeeping rhythm of the egungun has waned, but the memory of its beats lingers within you like an aftershock. As you walk back to your resting place, you reflect on the astonishing complexity of the Yoruba's relationship with time, a relationship that moves seamlessly from the ritualistic precision of dawn's first call to the festival's chaotic bursts of energy, all bound together by the steady hand of the drum. Historians still argue whether the spiritual significance of drumming in Yoruba culture is more important than its role in practical timekeeping, or whether both aspects are inseparable. Mainstream scholarship often leans towards the duality of drums, not merely instruments for timekeeping, but conduits for both communication and transcendence. This relationship between the temporal and the spiritual is perhaps most evident in rituals such as egungun, where the beating of the drum acts as a bridge between the earthly and the divine. You probably won't survive a week in this village without realizing that time here isn't simply measured by the ticking of a clock, but by the rhythms that fill the air. From the morning call of Ibomiro to the evening pulse of Aroko, time is woven into the very fabric of life, not as an abstract concept, but as something deeply felt, lived, and embodied in each beat. A light joke flutters through your mind. If only your meetings were as rhythmically coordinated, they'd end before the coffee ran cold. Yet, in the rhythms of this village, there's a harmony, a syncopation of movement, sound, and spirit that transforms ordinary moments into something extraordinary. You approach the edge of the village where the drum beats are no longer audible, and the moon hangs like a solitary guardian in the sky. The gentle night air wraps around you like a blanket, and for a moment you feel that timeless connection to everything the drums have touched, every footstep, every breath, every heartbeat that has passed in rhythm with the land. The quiet now feels sacred, and the absence of drumming somehow amplifies the stillness, as if the village itself is holding its breath, waiting for the next beat to arrive. A fringe tale echoes in the back of your mind that the first Yoruba drummers, those who invented this system of timekeeping, did so with the help of an ancient god, Oya, who taught them how to make sound from the wind, the trees, and the earth. Whether legend or truth, it's clear that these rhythms, these beats, are not merely human constructs. They are part of a larger cosmic order woven into the very fabric of existence. As you continue your walk, the village fades into the distance behind you, but the rhythmic pulse of the drums remains, a steady thrum in your chest, a reminder that time is not something you chase, but something you move with. You realize that the drumming has taught you something important, that time in its purest form is not meant to be hurried or rushed. It is a rhythm to be followed, a beat to be felt, a sound to be listened to. You pause for a moment to look back at the village, the faint glow of the last embers still visible in the distance. The drumming has stopped, but its echo lingers, guiding you onward. You take a deep breath, feeling the air fill your lungs, and smile to yourself. The rhythm of life has become clear to you now, not as a series of separate moments, but as a continuous flowing pattern that connects everything, past, present, and future. It's a pattern you can carry with you wherever you go. A final light joke dances through your thoughts. If only your world were measured by drum beats, you might find yourself always in sync with the flow of life. But here, in this village, you understand that the true rhythm is not in the beating of drums alone. It's in the way the drums are woven into the very essence of the community, the land, and the people. The drum may have stopped, but its song continues to play in your mind long after the night has passed. You make your way back to your resting place where the world feels softer, quieter. The night is still, and for a fleeting moment, you sense the drumming of your own heartbeat, blending with the rhythms that have echoed throughout this land for centuries. It's a sound that will stay with you long after the morning sun rises. You wander into a bamboo-walled schoolhouse by daylight, its benches worn smooth by generations of students who once learned drum languages alongside basic literacy. In one corner, a row of talking drums rests on woven mats, their skins taut and polished. On the rough-hewn blackboard, chalk scrawls outline the question, did talking drums precede written script, or vice versa? The debate has raged in scholarly circles for centuries, with each side pointing to tantalizing fragments of evidence. You probably won't survive this intellectual bout without coffee strong enough to wake a sleeping masquerader. Yet you feel the thrill of inquiry pulsing through your veins. Historians still argue whether the tonal syllables carved into drum rhythms were the world's earliest phonetic codes, or merely imitations of an already literate society's spoken words. Mainstream archaeology notes that Yoruba divinatory verses were first inscribed on Opa Ifa wooden tablets by at least the 14th century, suggesting literacy existed concurrently with drum languages. Yet some epigraphists argue that early scripts borrowed directly from tonal patterns, making the drum a precursor to writing, rather than the other way around. You settle on a low stool as two academics spar at a narrow table. One, a bespectacled epigraphist, brandishes a fragment of inscribed palm leaf, proclaiming that the angled dashes mimic drum cadence. The other, a musicologist with an unquenchable grin, pounds a miniature gangan drum, demonstrating how certain strokes could represent vowel and consonant clusters in Proto-Yoruba. Their voices rise and fall like competing drum beats, each making a compelling case. You stifle a light joke. If only your own brainstorming sessions were this rhythmic, you'd solve your to-do list in record time. A fringed tale surfaces from the back row. An elderly griot once claimed that a drumming sequence was discovered carved on the walls of ancient Il-Ife shrines, predating any known script by hundreds of years. That story lacks firm carbon dating, yet it persists in local lore, an echo of pride in an oral tradition that feels as old as the earth itself. You lean in, curiosity piqued, as the musicologist taps out a phrase, tum da, tum, pausing to let you guess its translation. You hazard ancestor invocation, but he smirks and replies, try first symbol. It's how drums once introduced letters. Nearby, a slender graduate student meticulously records the debate, her notepad crammed with waveform sketches and glyph transcriptions. She notes the mainstream consensus that Ajami script Arabic-based writing adapted to Yoruba only emerged in the 17th century, long after drum languages flourished. Yet she also records that Ifa verses inscribed in Igun masks from the 15th century include rhythmic notation that mirrors drum speech. Historians still argue whether such notations were purely mnemonic devices for recitation or genuine attempts at written tonal representation. You probably won't survive without cracking a smile at the epigraphist's dramatic flourish. She raps her chalk against the board like a drumstick, sending a chalky cloud into the air. We have inscriptions, she declares, pointing at a series of parallel lines that resemble drumstick grooves. A light joke flutters in your mind. If only your own memos could jump off the screen like that, grabbing attention with both form and percussion. As the debate intensifies, you notice the headmaster drift in a tall figure draped in traditional robes, carrying a leather satchel filled with ancient scroll reproductions. He's here to moderate the dispute, ensuring proper citation of both oral testimonies and archaeological data. He begins with a mainstream fact: Stone Age notches, found in nearby caves, share no clear link to drum patterns, suggesting that true writing in the region began with palm leaf inscriptions. Yet, he concedes that tonal complexity in drum speech may have inspired early cymbal makers to capture pitch and duration. A fringe notion wafts through the air that an encoded drum message once instructed artisans to carve Ife bronze heads with specific stylistic features, a proto-blueprint etched into rhythm. The headmaster smiles knowingly, but admits no surviving record beyond verbal testimonies collected by 19th century colonial officers. Whether that's poetic imagination or lost evidence remains an open question, a testament to the drum's enduring mystique. You rise to pace between desks, notebook in hand. The epigraphist leaps onto a small platform, demonstrating how a vertical slash might represent a drum's bass tone, while a dot stands for a high slap. Behold the world's first glyph, she proclaims. The musicologist counters by striking a swift pattern that he argues can be written only as three connected symbols, not one composite mark, implying that literate scribes adapted drumming idioms into multi-character strings rather than merging them. Historians still argue over such interpretations, grappling with ambiguous relics and fragmented narratives. You catch the headmaster's eye as he draws an arch on the board, symbolizing a drum's curved hourglass body. He ties this to early stylizations in Vespertino manuscripts, where miniature drums appear alongside Yoruba proverbs, visual cues that bridge speech song and script. Mainstream art historians note that such illustrations began in the 16th century under Portuguese influence, yet they lack the tonal directives found only in drumming rhythms. This duality suggests that script and drum co-evolved, each informing the other in a symbiotic dance. A light joke surfaces. If your calendar app could integrate sound icons like that, maybe you'd actually remember your dentist appointment. Yet, here, the Yoruba did just that, embedding drum speech symbols into visual art, creating a multimodal timekeeping system. In a spontaneous demonstration, the musicologist taps out a sequence: ta 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 bum, bum, bum ka ka ka, each followed by a corresponding glyph that he projects onto a faded scroll. You lean in, astonished at the precision. Each tone has a matching visual form, complete with diacritical marks to indicate duration. This discovery, he claims, is the smoking gun, proving that drum language birthed written notation in the region. Yet critics point out that the scroll's date remains uncertain, with radiocarbon tests giving a range spanning 2 centuries. Historians still argue over the methodology's margin of error and what constitutes definitive proof. You scratch your chin, pondering. The epigraphist, sensing your intrigue, invites you to try. She hands you a small drum and a piece of charcoal. As you drum a simple dum-ta, and then sketch matching symbols, you realize how natural the process feels, rhythm guiding pen strokes in seamless translation. A fringe story resurfaces. An old proverb says, "Drum in your hand, pen in your mind." Perhaps this was once literal rather than metaphorical. The debate in the room crescendos like a festival drum finale. Arguments volley back and forth, each punctuated by drum beats and chalk sparks. Finally, the headmaster raises his hand, calling for calm. He reminds everyone that the question may never be fully answered. The fragmentary trail of evidence leaves room for both interpretations. Yet, he lauds the enduring partnership between drum and script. How each shaped Yoruba culture's understanding of time, communication, and art. You probably won't survive the night without that sense of awe. Yet you're invigorated by the intellectual drumming you've witnessed. You settle back onto your stool as the scholars exchange respectful nods, a mutual acknowledgement that their debate, like the drum's beat, continues beyond these walls. A final light joke drifts through your mind. If only your work email threads had this level of passionate engagement, you'd read them without needing reply all. As you step outside into the warm afternoon sun, you carry with you the echo of that classroom's clash of ideas, a reminder that the Yoruba talking drums are not static relics, but living legacies that challenge our notions of writing speech and time. Whether drum or script came first, they remain inseparable in the tapestry of human expression, each beat and each character singing a chapter of history, yet to be fully penned. You find yourself standing at the edge of a dense grove where the Sounds of the outside world fade, replaced by the tranquil pulse of nature. The sky has shifted into deep twilight, and in the distance, the last embers of the day's fires flicker low. As you walk deeper into the grove, the air becomes cooler, laced with the earthy scent of damp wood and the lingering fragrance of wild herbs. The rhythmic pulse of a distant drum catches your ear, but it is different from what you've heard before. This is not the call of the egungun or the timed precision of aroko. It's something gentler, more elusive. This is the sound of sacred time, measured not by human hands, but by the natural rhythms that govern life itself. Historians still argue whether the Yoruba ever intended to separate these natural rhythms from human timekeeping, or whether they were always intertwined. Mainstream belief holds that the Yoruba viewed the natural world as an extension of divine order, where the drumbeat was but one manifestation of the rhythms that shaped everything from the moon's cycle to the wind's patterns. For the Yoruba, time was not an isolated sequence of ticking moments. It was a dynamic, living force that connected all things, both seen and unseen. You probably won't survive this forest walk without a deep sense of reverence for the way the Yoruba saw time as a flow, something to be moved with rather than measured against. The distant drumbeat seems to echo this idea. Its rhythm feels timeless, as though it was born from the earth itself, moving in harmony with the sounds of the breeze and the rustling leaves. You realize that here in this quiet space, the Yoruba saw time not as a rigid linear progression, but as an organic cyclical experience, just like the patterns of the seasons, the rising and setting of the sun, and the rhythms of life and death. A light joke flits through your mind. If only you could tap into such a sense of time. Perhaps your own schedule would feel more fluid, less bound by clocks. But here in the grove, you understand that the Yoruba didn't need to rush through time. They moved with it like the natural rhythms that shaped their world. You stop beside an ancient baobab tree, its twisted limbs reaching out like arms, beckoning toward the sky. The bark of the tree is rough and aged, its surface etched with markings, some worn by time, others still fresh. It's said that these trees serve as living records, each tree carrying the stories and memories of generations past. The Yoruba believe that the baobab, like the drum, holds the wisdom of the ancestors within it. As you touch the gnarled bark, you feel a sense of connection to the past, as though the tree itself is speaking to you in the silent language of the earth. A fringed tale drifts into your thoughts that when a Yoruba elder passes, their spirit is said to dwell within the baobab, for a time the tree serving as a bridge between the living and the dead. The sound of the drum, then, is not merely the language of the living, it is also a language of the ancestors, a way for them to communicate across time and space. This sacred connection is embedded in the very fabric of Yoruba life, an unbroken rhythm that transcends death and binds the generations together. You sit beneath the baobab, feeling the cool earth beneath you, the rhythmic pulse of the distant drum, now harmonizing with the natural sounds around you. You close your eyes, letting the rhythm wash over you, allowing the sounds of the forest to blend with the drumming, creating a symphony of life that pulses through the air. In this moment, you realize that the Yoruba did not just use drums to mark time. They used them to embody time, to live in its flow, to understand it not as something outside of themselves, but as something they were deeply connected to. A light joke crosses your mind. If only your meetings had this kind of rhythm, where time wasn't a strict line but a flowing stream you could move with, not against. But here, in the quiet of the grove, you understand that time isn't something you conquer. It's something you learn to flow with. And the drum, with all its rhythmic complexities, is the key to that understanding. As the drum beat grows softer, you feel a sense of peace settle within you. The rhythm is no longer something distant or abstract. It has become a part of you, a thread that connects you to the land, the people, and the past. You open your eyes, the baobab's leaves rustling gently in the breeze, and the moon begins its slow rise in the sky, casting a silvery light across the grove. You realize that in the Yoruba worldview, time is not something that exists outside of us, measured by the ticking of a clock or the movement of hands. It is something we move through, part of the living world, shaped by the same forces that shape the earth itself. And the drum in all its forms is the language that lets us hear and understand those forces. A final light joke drifts through your mind. If only you could hear the heartbeat of the world as clearly as the Yoruba hear the drum, maybe you'd always feel in sync with life. But here in this grove beneath the baobab, you've heard that heartbeat. And for a moment at least, you've moved with it in rhythm as it was always meant to be. The quiet rhythm of the forest gradually gives way to the soft sound of footsteps, and you rise from beneath the baobab, feeling the weight of your journey echo in your body. The drumming from earlier, although faint, still lingers in your chest. As you move through the grove toward the village's edge, the stars overhead seem to shine brighter, as though they are marking the passage of time itself. Each one, like a drumbeat in the night sky, tells the story of a moment past and a moment yet to come. You move with a new sense of awareness, as if the world itself is drumming a quiet rhythm just for you. Historians still debate whether the Yoruba believed in a cosmic drum that guided the movements of the stars and the planets. Some argue that Yoruba cosmology, with its intricate understanding of time, was not confined to the earthly realm, but extended into the heavens, where celestial bodies followed their own set of rhythms. Mainstream scholarly sources suggest that the Yoruba saw the cosmos as a reflection of the rhythms on Earth, a giant drumbeat that echoed across the universe. You probably won't survive the night without feeling a deep sense of awe for this cosmic connection. The idea that the stars themselves may dance to the rhythm of the Yoruba drums seems at once strange and beautiful. And here in the quiet of the forest you realize that the Yoruba worldview doesn't see time as something external or separate. It is something integrated into the very fabric of the universe. It is a rhythm that flows through everything, through the earth, the stars, and the beating of human hearts. A light joke enters your mind if only you could synchronize your morning coffee routine with the rhythm of the cosmos. You'd wake up with perfect harmony. Yet, as you watch the stars flicker above, you realize that the Yoruba wisdom of time is not about rigid schedules or predictable patterns. It's about flowing with the rhythms of life wherever they may lead you. It's about listening to the pulse of the universe and moving in sync with it. The moon, now high in the sky, casts long shadows across the path ahead. You walk quietly. The only sound, the rustling of leaves, and the soft rhythm of your footsteps. It's as if you are part of the landscape now, your movement in harmony with the earth beneath your feet. You reflect on the drums you've heard throughout your journey, how each rhythm has shaped the day, how each beat has been a call to action, a moment of pause, a signal to remember. These rhythms are not just markers of time, they are the language of life itself. A fringe thought flits through your mind: if only you could hear the rhythms of the world as clearly as the Yoruba hear their drums, maybe you would understand the deeper layers of life. You smile at the thought, realizing that the Yoruba didn't need to hear the world in any special way. They simply listened with intention, with an understanding that everything had a rhythm, even if it wasn't always obvious. They knew that life's beats were not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes they were quiet whispers, like the soft tap of a drum calling you to notice. You reach the edge of the village, where the sounds of the festival are now but a distant memory. The village is settling into the calm of night, the rhythms of the day now replaced by the deep silence of the earth. You pause, taking a moment to appreciate the stillness, the way the night seems to hold its breath, waiting for the next beat. The drumming has stopped, but its essence lingers in the air. The rhythms of the village, like the rhythms of the stars, are never truly gone. They simply move in cycles, ready to return when the time is right. A light joke lingers at the back of your mind. If only life's moments could be as perfectly timed as a Yoruba drum, you might never miss a step. Yet, as you stand at the village's edge, you realize that the Yoruba don't need perfect timing. They live in harmony with the time they are given. They listen, they respond, and they move with the rhythms that guide them. And in that movement, they find their place in the world. You take a deep breath and step forward, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath you, knowing that the next rhythm will arrive when the time is right. The drums have faded, but their message is clear. Time is not a force to be controlled. It is a force to be felt, to be moved with. You walk on your heart, still resonating with the beat of the universe, knowing that you too are part of the rhythm of life. As you walk away from the village, the rhythmic hum of the drums fading behind you, the night wraps around you like a quiet embrace. You feel lighter, as though the beat has slowed your own pulse, syncing you with the rhythm of the earth itself. The stars seem closer now, their cold light shimmering softly across the sky, and for a brief moment you feel that you are moving not through time, but with it like a leaf floating on a river's current, guided by forces far older than yourself. Historians still argue about the Yoruba understanding of time, whether they perceived it as cyclical, linear, or both. Mainstream interpretations suggest that time in Yoruba thought is not confined to a single path. It is a web of interconnected rhythms, all moving in harmony. Some scholars even claim that the Yoruba understood time as a parallel universe where past, present, and future existed simultaneously like the overlapping beats of a drum. This view aligns with the Yoruba belief that the rhythm of life is cyclical, returning again and again, like the seasonal rhythms of the land, with the drums marking the moment when each cycle begins anew. You probably won't survive another step without feeling the weight of that understanding. The idea that the cycles of time are not something to fight against, but something to dance with, is a profound realization. You've spent your life watching time tick away, trying to control it, bend it to your will. But here, in the quiet of the night, you feel the truth of the Yoruba worldview. Time isn't something you own. It's something you move with like a drumbeat that echoes through the universe, guiding you toward what is yet to come. A light joke bubbles in your mind. If only your calendar app could sync with the moon's cycles and the rhythms of nature, perhaps you'd never miss a deadline. But as you look up at the stars, you realize that the Yoruba didn't need apps or schedules to keep time. They understood that time was always with them, in the pulse of the earth, the hum of the wind, and the beat of the drum. You reach the edge of the forest, the moon now fully risen, casting silver light across the path ahead. The air is cool, and the quiet of the night feels complete. You stop for a moment, closing your eyes and listening to the faintest whispers of the wind through the trees. The village feels distant now, but the rhythm of the drums still echoes within you, guiding you forward. It's as though you've been given a gift, the ability to listen, to move with time rather than against it. A fringe thought drifts by that maybe the drums are not just a method of measuring time, they are a reminder that life itself is a rhythm. Each heartbeat, each breath, each step is a beat, a movement within the larger song of existence. The Yoruba didn't need to control time because they understood that it would move on its own, just as the drums move in their own natural cycles. They didn't fight against the rhythm. They danced with it, letting it carry them through the highs and lows of life. A light joke comes to mind. If only you could remember this feeling when you're caught in the rush of your daily routine, maybe you'd find a way to sync your work and your life. to the beat of your own heart. But here in this moment, you realize that the rhythm of life is not just about the time that passes. It's about how you move within it, how you listen to the beats that guide you, and how you choose to respond. You continue down the path, the moonlight casting long shadows across the ground. The distant drumming fades, but its presence lingers in your chest, steady and constant. As you walk, you feel as though the rhythm of the earth is still with you, guiding you forward, reminding you that time is not something to be conquered, but something to be experienced. A final light joke flits through your mind. If only you could walk through life as gracefully as the Yoruba move through time, you'd never feel out of step. But for now, you carry the beat of the drum with you, the rhythm echoing within you like a heartbeat that will never stop. The world may move in cycles, but you've learned how to move with it. And as the night stretches out before you, you realize that, like the drum, your journey is just beginning. As the path before you continues to wind deeper into the night, a sense of quiet anticipation begins to settle around you. The landscape ahead feels softer, somehow more connected, as though the rhythm of the earth itself is guiding your steps. The distant sounds of the festival have now fully faded, replaced by the natural sounds of the night, the gentle rustling of leaves, the occasional chirp of a nocturnal bird, and the whisper of the wind across the land. It's a peaceful silence, punctuated only by the subtle pulse of your own heartbeat, still in tune with the rhythms that have defined your journey. Historians still debate the role of nature in Yoruba timekeeping traditions. Some argue that as the Yoruba lived so deeply connected with the natural world, their understanding of time was inherently cyclical, marked by the changing of the seasons, the phases of the moon, and the shifting winds. Mainstream belief suggests that time in Yoruba culture was never isolated from nature. It was always in harmony with it. The cycle of life was reflected in the cycle of the seasons, and the cycle of the drumbeat was an expression of this larger, more divine rhythm. You probably won't survive the night without realizing that in this moment, you too are moving with the world, each step in sync with the pulse of the earth, guided by the rhythms that have shaped this land for centuries. The feeling is one of total immersion, like the natural world has wrapped itself around you. And for the first time, you are not an observer, but a participant in the larger rhythm of existence. You walk not just through time, but with it. The very air feels alive, vibrating with the echo of ancient knowledge, of traditions passed down through generations of a people who have learned to move with the rhythm of life rather than against it. A light joke drifts through your mind. If only the world were this easy to follow, where each step felt as natural as breathing. But here in this moment, you realize that the Yoruba don't wait for life to fall into place. They make it fall into rhythm. With each beat, each drum stroke, they shape their world, moving with time in a dance that has lasted centuries. As you continue down the path, You feel the pull of something larger than yourself, something timeless. The moon is now high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the landscape, and you are reminded once again of the cyclical nature of existence. The moon, like the drums, marks the passage of time, but unlike the strict ticking of a clock, it does so with grace, with fluidity, with rhythm. And just as the Yoruba listen to the rhythms of the earth, so too do you begin to feel the pull of this larger cosmic rhythm, a rhythm that has been echoing through the universe since the beginning of time. A fringe idea lingers in your mind. Perhaps the Yoruba understood something that modern life often forgets, that time is not a straight line, but a series of overlapping cycles, each one informing the next. It's a concept that resonates deeply, reminding you that life is not something to be rushed through, but something to be lived in rhythm with, like the changing of the seasons or the rise and fall of the moon. The Yoruba have mastered this moving with the rhythms of the land, the stars, and the ancestors, finding balance and harmony in each beat. A light joke forms in your mind. If only your life had such natural cycles where you could pause and take in the rhythm of the world around you instead of constantly chasing the clock. But for now, you understand that the Yoruba wisdom lies not in mastering time, but in moving with it, like the rhythms of the drum fluid, flexible and always in sync with the larger rhythm of life. You stop for a moment looking up at the sky. The stars seem closer now, their soft light reflecting the pulse of the universe, and for a brief moment you feel that you are a part of that pulse. You are a part of the rhythm of the earth, of the stars, of the very fabric of existence. You breathe deeply, feeling that connection, and you realize that, like the Yoruba, you too are part of something much larger than yourself. Time is not something that controls you. It is something that you move with in perfect harmony, like the beat of a drum. A final light joke drifts through your thoughts. If only you could always move through life with such rhythm, maybe you'd never feel out of sync. But here in this moment you understand that the secret lies in not forcing the rhythm, but in learning to follow it. And as you walk forward, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath your feet, you know that you are moving with time, not against it. As you continue walking, the rhythm of your steps now perfectly mirrors the pulse of the world around you. The distant calls of nocturnal creatures blend with the occasional rustling of leaves, and you realize that the earth itself is moving in sync with you. It's as though the entire world, its creatures, its winds, its forests, exists within the same beat. The thought is both humbling and empowering. You are not alone in this dance. You are part of a much larger rhythm, one that has been moving for eons, long before you and long after you. Historians still debate the role of the drum in connecting individuals to the larger world. Some scholars argue that the Yoruba drum was used not just to keep time, but to remind the community of its place in the vastness of the universe. The drum beat was a call to remember that each person, each action, each moment was part of a greater cosmic rhythm. Mainstream thought holds that the Yoruba saw their time as intertwined with the cycles of nature, the ebb and flow of the tides, the changing of seasons, and the movement of celestial bodies. For them, time was not a rigid construct. It was a living, breathing entity, constantly shifting and evolving. You probably won't survive without a feeling of awe as you move through this space, surrounded by nature's rhythm. The night sky above, filled with stars, feels like a vast cosmic drum, its beats echoing across the expanse. It's as if the universe itself is orchestrating a symphony with each star, each planet, each living thing playing its part. And you, walking in the stillness, feel that you too are playing your part each step you take, contributing to the larger cosmic rhythm. The realization is almost overwhelming, yet it brings a deep sense of peace. You are connected to something far larger than yourself. A light joke flits through your mind. If only you could find the remote control to pause life and just listen to the cosmic rhythm for a while. But here in the stillness of the night, you understand that the key is not in pausing, but in moving with the rhythm. The Yoruba have learned this well, understanding that time is not something to be controlled, but something to be felt and experienced. They have learned to listen to the drum, to the earth, to the cosmos itself, and move in harmony with it. It's a lesson you are slowly beginning to understand. The path you walk seems to stretch on forever, but it feels less like a journey toward a destination and more like a continuation of the rhythm that began long before you. The world around you, the trees, the grass, the wind is not separate from you. You are a part of it, and it is a part of you. You feel the pulse of the earth beneath your feet, the rhythm of the night in the air, and the steady beat of your heart syncing with all of it. A fringe thought drifts through your mind. Could it be that the Yoruba saw the world as one vast interconnected drum, with each person, each creature, each moment adding its own beat? If so, then you too are a part of that great rhythm, your heart beating in time with the earth, the stars, and the drum. It's a humbling realization that everything from the smallest insect to the greatest celestial body is part of the same song, playing its part in the vast orchestra of existence. You stop for a moment, standing at the edge of the grove. The night has grown quiet, now the rhythm of the earth settling into a peaceful hum. You breathe deeply, feeling the cool night air fill your lungs. The stars shine above you like 1,000 tiny drummers, each one playing its own beat in the infinite rhythm of the universe. You realize that in this moment, you are part of that rhythm. You are part of the song that has been playing since the beginning of time, and you will continue to play your part as long as you live. A final light joke dances in your mind. If only your life could be as simple as listening to the rhythm of the universe, maybe everything would feel in sync. But here, in the stillness of the night, you understand that the simplicity lies not in the rhythm, but in learning to move with it. You are part of something larger, something eternal, and that realization fills you with peace. You take one last deep breath, feeling the earth's pulse beneath your feet, and step forward, knowing that you too are moving with the rhythm of the world. As the journey continues through the tranquil darkness, you find yourself crossing a narrow stream, its surface glistening like silver under the pale light of the moon. The sound of the water rushing over rocks is a soft, continuous rhythm, its gentle pulse in harmony with the stillness around you. It strikes you then, the same timeless rhythm that has guided your steps tonight through villages, forests, and festivals is present in the natural world as well. The beat of the earth, the flow of the river, the rustling of the trees, each sound is part of the same symphony. The world, it seems, has its own drumbeat, and you are walking to it. Historians still argue about whether the Yoruba, with their deep connection to the earth, viewed time as something that was intrinsically linked to the natural world, or whether their rituals simply reflected a human desire to impose order on the vast, uncontainable rhythm of life. Mainstream thought suggests that the Yoruba, understanding the cycles of nature, crafted their timekeeping systems in close harmony with those natural rhythms. The rising and setting of the sun, the blooming of flowers, the flow of rivers. These were all rhythms they could feel, and they wove these rhythms into the fabric of their daily lives as essential and as natural as breathing. You probably won't survive the night without understanding how deeply connected the Yoruba were to the natural world. They didn't separate time from nature. They lived in sync with it. Their lives, a continuous flow like the river you now stand beside. As you listen to the water, its rhythm is gentle but unwavering, much like the rhythms of the earth that the Yoruba understood so well. It's a reminder that time is not an abstract, rigid concept, but a fluid, living thing, something that flows, something you can move with rather than fight against. A light joke enters your mind. If only your day-to-day life could feel this fluid, like the flow of a river, each moment moving into the next without resistance. But here, in the quiet of the stream, you see the wisdom of the Yoruba. They lived with the flow of time, letting it carry them, just as the river carries the leaves and twigs along its surface. Time for them wasn't something to be conquered or bent to human will. It was something to move with, to feel in every moment. The moonlight sparkles on the surface of the stream as you watch it wind through the forest. The water gliding over rocks and pebbles reflects the same pattern you've witnessed in the festivals, in the dances, and in the rituals. It's as if the entire world is a great dance, and the river's pulse, like the beat of a drum, marks the rhythm of life. You step carefully across the stream, the cool water rushing around your ankles. And as you do, you realize that you too are part of this great flow, moving with time, moving with nature, moving with the beat of life. A fringe thought slips into your mind. Maybe the Yoruba were right all along. Time is not something that needs to be controlled or measured by clocks. It's something that moves through you, something you feel in your bones, in your breath, in the rhythm of your steps. It's a pulse that connects you to the earth, to the stars, to the people around you, and to the generations that came before. And the drums, those ancient instruments of time, are the voice of that pulse. They speak to us, not with words, but with rhythm, calling us to listen, to feel, to move in harmony with the world. You continue your walk, the sound of the river, now a soft background hum, and as you do, you can't help but smile. You've learned something tonight, not just about the Yoruba and their drums, but about the rhythms that govern us all. Time isn't something that is separate from us. It's something we are part of, something that moves with us, something that speaks to us in the language of the earth, the sky, and the heart. A final light joke crosses your mind. If only your calendar had a time to listen option, maybe you'd take a moment each day to move with the rhythm of the world. But for now, you understand that the rhythms of life are always there if you're willing to listen. You take another step forward, feeling the earth beneath your feet and the river beside you, both moving in their own way, both part of the same song, and you too are moving with it. You follow a narrow woodland trail as it curves gently toward a tranquil clearing bathed in silver moonlight. The forest around you seems to hold its breath, every leaf shimmering as though in anticipation. Ahead, draped over a moss-covered stump, sits the master drummer, whose rhythms have led you this far. He raises his hands above the drum in a slow, deliberate motion. No haste, no urgency, only the calm promise of rest. You probably won't survive another night without surrendering to this final melody. Yet here you stand, heart still beating, in time with every step you've taken. This is the gentle lullaby rhythm, whispered through leather skin and wood, a drumbeat designed not to command, but to caress. Historians still argue whether this lullaby evolved from ancient hunter camp rhythms or was first played as part of sacred bedtime rituals within royal courts. Mainstream accounts note that Yoruba mothers often sang their children to sleep with drum accompaniment, the very same pattern you now hear in hushed dum, tum, duh, pulses that mirror a slowing heartbeat. The drummer strikes the first bass note, deep, warm, and resonant, its vibration rippling through the grass beneath your feet. You inhale, tasting the faint hint of wild jasmine carried on the night breeze. The rhythm unfolds gently, a soft dum, tum, followed by a tender pause that stretches like the exhale of a long sigh. A fringed tail murmurs that some drummers once infused the hide with calming herbs during the curing process, believing the drum itself could carry soporific properties. Whether myth or reality, the effect is undeniable. As the lullaby pattern weaves its way through the clearing, You feel the tension seep out of your limbs. Memories of dawn's sharp calls and market's brisk staccatos melt into the night. A light joke flits through your mind. If only your work inbox possessed a snooze button this powerful. Each stroke of the drum is measured, holding space like a gentle hug. You notice a childlike wonder in your own breathing, slow, deep, synchronized with the drum's cadence. You sink to the forest floor, settling onto a bed of plush moss, as if the earth itself welcomes your rest. The moon's light filters through the canopy, dappling your surroundings in soft moving patterns that dance in time with the lullaby. Mainstream ethnographers document that this lullaby rhythm aligns with the human circadian cycle. It's pacing roughly 60 beats per minute, the pace of a relaxed adult heart. Historians still argue whether Yoruba drummers intuitively discovered this alignment or intentionally crafted rhythms to mirror human physiology. You sense both instinct and intention in every beat. The pattern shifts subtly. A single high-pitched tick punctures the bass like a whisper, reminding you to let go of the day's burdens. Your eyelids flutter heavy with fatigue and peace. You notice the cool moss against your skin, the earthy scent of forest floor, and the echo of distant crickets harmonizing with the drum. The drummer's hands move with the surety of long practice, each strike a promise kept. A fringe anecdote suggests that travelers passing through these woods would sleep so deeply to this lullaby that they awoke only at dawn's bright call. You wonder if that explains how generations of villagers rose fresh as dew, guided first by the Ibomiro. A light joke breezes through your fading thoughts. If only your alarm clock could deliver such velvet transition between sleep and wakefulness. But you realize that here the cycle is complete, beginning with dawn's crackling call, peaking with midday bustle, and now closing with this gentle lullaby. The lullaby slows each beat, spaced further apart, like ripples widening on a still pond. You feel yourself drift each breath heavier, as though the drum is guiding not just your mind, but every cell towards stillness. The forest blends around you, the moss, the trees, the moonlight, and you sense the world's heartbeat aligning with your own. The final bass note resonates, then hovers in the air, a fading echo that stretches into silence. You exhale fully, releasing the last candle of wakefulness from your mind. In that lingering hush, you hear only your own slow heartbeat and the night's soft chorus of crickets and wind. You lay your head on the moss, the clearing your cradle, the stars your canopy. The gentle lullaby has spoken its final word, leaving only peace in its wake. The forest holds you tenderly in its quiet embrace, leaf and shadow, weaving a lullaby of their own as the moon above stands watch. Your breathing deepens, each inhale and exhale a whisper of the journey you've shared, from the sharp crack of dawn's talking drums to the hush of nighttime vigil the vibrant festival calls, and the solemn rites of ancestors. You've traveled far in time and spirit, guided by rhythms shaped in leather and wood, and now you rest at the rhythm's gentle end. Feel the soft moss beneath you, yielding like the earth's gentle exhale. The night air, cool and fragrant, carries the scent of jasmine and damp leaves, a tender reminder that you are part of this living world. The stars shimmer above distant watchers whose own cycles echo the drumbeats that have stirred generations. Here, there is only stillness, and in that stillness, a profound sense of belonging. Let go of all hurry. Each heartbeat is a drum, each breath a note in the night's grand symphony. When you close your eyes, imagine the echo of that final bass note cradling you, a velvety cushion of sound that lulls you deeper into rest. The gentle cadence you have followed is now within you, an internal rhythm that pulses softly, guiding you toward dreams. As your eyelids grow heavier, allow yourself to float, carried by a current of peace. The world may wake to the bustling drum calls of tomorrow, but for now, you belong to the hush between each beat, the sacred pause where time itself breathes. In this space, you're tenderly held by the earth's embrace, the ancestors' soft murmur, and the drum's final loving farewell. Sleep deeply, friend, and let the rhythm of the Yoruba night guide you into dreams. Sweetest of dreams, wrapped in leather wood and moonlight.